Thank you everybody for holding on. Sorry I'm a little late. Trying to get the video feed all perfect. Get everybody CC'd in the video. I'm going to do this Epstein presentation, and it really is taking the system, the justice system of the United States, very, very complex system, a district model that many Americans and absolutely folks from all over the world don't understand at all. Many Americans struggle with it. I've spent 10 years studying the justice system of the United States. Absolutely. It started for me, my journey 10 years ago. I ran for the equivalent of state governor. I did that in the province of Alberta, and I did that on succeeding from Canada, leaving Canada and becoming a UN landlocked nation called Canada. And I presented an international model, but in order to get that platform out, I had to study much of world country systems, and of course, United States being an excellent model and source of research, and what would an Alberta look like. And when you start comparing, which is what it's called, comparative analysis, you have to do the justice system. You need to do that. You need to understand all of these ministries, and how do you form a country out of a region, and how are the people going to want to decide that? How is constitutionalism going to work? And of course, the greatest source model is the United States of America. On this journey, I learned a lot. I then went on to how to fix Canada after losing that election. And again, more detail in all of these models. Absolutely the district model of the United States. Into now the 51st state of Canada, a presidential invite. A lot of people don't understand. They don't understand just how significant that is. But folks, beyond all that, and the legal design of the machine called the United States of America, a we the people model machine. And it's got lots of parts, lots of institutions, many of which are independent and are at the bequest of the people. I can tell you, absolutely, the DOJ, as you know, is the Department of Justice, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and even Homeland Security have different designs, different levels and systems within a justice district model of the United States. Many districts with all kinds of different rules. In fact, the United States doesn't have, for the FBI when it comes to investigations, doesn't have certain authorities that the Department of Justice does. They work together in different narratives, just like Homeland Security, that works on the federal level. Now you'll say, well, FBI, Dave, is federal. Well, the DOJ, Department of Justice, works at the state level. It's broken down into 12 districts that are encompassing of the states themselves. There are things DOJ can do the FBI will never be able to achieve or do in the legal system in navigating courts and cases. I know this for a fact because I had the great blessed pleasure as a Boilermaker in an international union, Boilermakers, the International Brotherhood. It's an American-Canadian union starting in the States. It overlapped Canada. Now, Canada doesn't have those district models, but we did take that union, and we do have an international that's entirely American. It was based in a specific state, in a specific district, judicial district that encompasses several states of the Union. Of those states, folks, there is a we the people system. A we the people system the DOJ navigates extremely well. FBI, not so good. And I'm going to make all of this relevant very soon. I just want to give some background here for Americans and Canadians. A number of years ago, my international union wrapped up in serious corruption. I mean, epic scale corruption. It's not secret or privileged information. It's out there for everybody. Mafia style systems in play here. Other corruption of foreign governments inside America and outside of America. And that happened to the Boilermakers, like lots of companies. So we're not picking on a union, an international union. There are many international companies operating in the United States still in those corruption scandals and systems. And DOJ works on those, FBI works on those, and Homeland Security works on those. These are all three parts of the judicial system and some executive overlap that works with the executive. They have different narratives, different achievements. Some is national, federal. Some is international for the homeland itself, putting America in protective status. And then there's the state level system. And this is where the DOJ operates much, much differently than the FBI and Homeland Security, even though they will utilize some of that depending on the scenario. Now, what happened with the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers is we had a president and several other corrupt officers of our international union outside of America operating, taking funds from the membership, seizing it, utilizing it with foreign governments, foreign organizations. It was a 10-year investigation. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is the whole Epstein truth that Americans don't get. FBI isn't going to see it a certain way because they aren't in the same system the Department of Justice is. These work together, but they have different checks and balances, different powers, different systems, that some of which are better in certain areas and some are not. And I can guarantee you all that the Department of Justice and what they did for the Boilermakers, which was initiated by we, the people, American Boilermakers, average Joe Janes, who took out a massive tyrant at an international level. Yes, this goes right into Ukraine corruption, all of it. And yes, it was pretty high level, very sophisticated, and the investigations went on for 10 years. A lot of us have given up hope and thought, it's corruption, the government's in on it, all of that. I'm here today to tell Americans, Canadians, or anyone else in the world that just isn't the case. And just because FBI sees something a certain way and they want to jump on something, doesn't mean you're going to get a successful prosecution or, in fact, get all those you need to. This is where the Department of Justice has powers at the state level that will never be available to a federal government. What do I mean by that? So, folks, the Department of Justice went after the International Brotherhood in a specific district, in a specific we the people court system that the federal government can't stop. That's how we got this tyrant. And I am certain that FBI that doesn't operate in that system where the Department of Justice does is being backseated by Pam Bondi because they're working on that. And it takes many years. These are wealthy, powerful folks. No different than the Boilermakers, maybe even more powerful. But the point is that we gave up. We felt like they had failed us. And as a Canadian Americans, I want you to understand something. None of that exists in Canada. In Canada, we have three types of people. You have American citizens, American Indian citizens, two equal, distinct peoples, but equal nonetheless. And in Canada, that's not the case. We have an elite class. We have the subject class, which you can guess is pretty much modern slavery, subject to this divine elite, which is our political class. And then we have the savage class of people, which is all of our version of the same people, American Indians. They're put in an entirely subgroup, dehumanized group. And the subjects are too. And the divine elite, there is no accountability. They rule the justice system. The justice system is absolutely fused, meaning judicial, executive, and legislative branch of government, as you Americans know it. In Canada, that's all fused into one under the executive. And that is reality. We do not have an independent judiciary. We do not have the power as subjects to call forth any kind of investigation at any level. We're subject to. All of our police, every single level, operates one way, like the FBI. Can you imagine not having an elected local sheriff or local municipal police force or city council with that power for the people, or any law enforcement like all of yours are, who are sworn to serve and protect the people of the United States of America, and all the American Indians who codified also get that power to run their own policing on their own reserves. This is not the truth of Canada. Doesn't matter what police force it's called, even when we mimic your name, some provinces do that, or other reserves have police forces. All of our police operate entirely as the FBI does, from the smallest level to the top level, highly centralized, one system fused with the executive. Can you imagine that, Americans? That is Canada, absolutely. And why all this is so important is because when we deal with Epstein as the Boilermakers, Canadians could never get that justice. It was not possible for us to get any justice. It was our American brothers and sisters, average Joe Janes, using the DOJ at the district level through the DOJ, then empowering the FBI outside of their normal powers, giving the DOJ the power to give it over. This was in that district model. Now, if you're Pam Bondi, Epstein files, and you shut the FBI down, as Donald Trump says, don't get on her, leave it alone, there's no files. It's because they're working on it, folks. They're working on it. They're finding their avenue, the best avenue and foot forward. That's what's happening. Just like what happened with the Boilermakers. Do you want that all over the news, all over everywhere, made fully public? And then you've corrupted the investigation and you allow these people to run out of the states they're in? Because I can assure you, in my coming very, very soon video, YouTube professional video, I'm almost done, you're going to see how I iron that out for New York and what New York did to one President Donald J. Trump, because it's a different district model system and it doesn't have the same powers of other district model systems. The DOJ can utilize and target people that way, but it takes a lot longer, it takes time, and it takes a lot of work. And sure, the FBI can be brought in after initiatives are made for and by people, any two Americans, but it's limited on scope and scale in only certain states in some key justice district models. They're not all encompassing. And if you just spill the beans on everything, everybody, these people will run out of what they're doing right now and they will run to a safe haven and they get away with it. And then good luck getting them. It's better to build over time that investigation critical in those key districts, investigate these people, and then release it when it's ironclad. Because again, not all districts are ironclad. And to prove this, Americans, you will understand, maybe some Canadians who follow will, I don't think a whole lot, but look what happened in certain states, certain judicial districts. Even though it was unconstitutional, it had to go to a higher court, the Supreme Court. But look what happened to Donald J. Trump out of key states. Now, a lot of people say, well, these are Democrat states. Well, sure, but it's not that. It's their district model and the district model they're in that empowers justices to do this. You're going to learn this in my upcoming YouTube video on how to fix New York. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to show at the end of the month how to fix California. We the people style, how it's done at the state level. And yes, DOJ will be there. Will FBI? No, because it's not part and parcel of their institution. It's not what they work on. They're investigative and they're more tied to the executive. They're not in the actual application of the justice system. They don't. They execute justice. They do investigations. They pass it over to prosecutors, which are in the Department of Justice, and that's how it works. And the Department of Justice knows how to navigate that system, as I'm trying to explain to all of you. Epstein will never be made public. It would be crazy to do that. These are wealthy, wealthy people at high levels, and you will see that these investigations will continue. I think Deputy Director Dan Bongino isn't going to resign tomorrow. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think tomorrow we're going to see him cool off, a cool cucumber, and come back to the table. And really, this video is for the FBI, DOJ, Homeland Security to understand your three institutions with very different systems and designs. Yes, you overlap in that judicial district model of America, but never forget, for the other two, Department of Justice has serious powers at the state level, has full understanding of the district model that doesn't encompass either of you because you're in a different system, a different check and balance. That wouldn't be important to you. But for the Department of Justice, who goes after people and sees these things through, this is very, very critical, crucial, and very important. And if you tip people off, they're gone. They get away. It almost happened to us Boilermakers. Some of us almost did it into ourselves, but it all worked out. They were on it. FBI worked together with the Department of Justice, and after 10 years, they got it done. What kind of impact does that have on Canadian Boilermakers? Well, that catch moved our retirement age back 2 years. Huge, huge. Now, Americans have a different path to go forward in that, but that's what that led to just for us Canadians who'd have never got any of that justice in Canada or Canada's model. It's an amazing thing what America is, and people shouldn't lose heart or think that somehow making things public, blowing it up now when none of those things are in place to have successful prosecutions, or tipping people off who may or may not be on a list is a good idea. It's not. And you can choose to take that as it is or not, but the DOJ has proven itself time and time again to be awesome, comparatively to the rest of the world. I promise you, it would be a godsend to all Canadians to have that system, that department in an independent judicial branch in Canada. But that is not the way it is here in Canada. That is so far outside the scope of what Canada is, it's not even funny. And Americans should be blessed with that. And sometimes you have to trust the system, and you've just got to take a step back. And I think Dan Bongino is going to be educated in this if he hasn't already this weekend. And I think he's going to be a cool cucumber tomorrow, and he'll be very quiet. It's not because he was paid off. It's because the Department of Justice has a whole other system, a very complicated system, but a system where they've gotten really good at going through the right process to get these guys, still utilizing the FBI, but not messing it up in the wrong district model, going after people early when you have to think about how you're going to get them, how these people are going to be brought to justice, the people's justice, because that is not universal in America. You really have to be careful where you file and do things. And again, how do we know this? Because we watched certain states prosecute the President of the United States, former President at the time, running for President. They were going to do their damnedest, even though in the end, he wasn't even guilty. He never did any time. He never got a criminal record. Go look at all 34 of those indictments. These were district federal indictments by justices in certain state districts who went out of their way unconstitutionally to prosecute Donald J. Trump. And this highlights a problem of those systems. It's not just New York. There's many other colonial states still stuck in a colonial age. They're still stuck there. And that's the work I'm going forward to showcase the states who are completely decolonized, South, Central, and North, who are completely decolonized, and give tremendous powers to the American people. And we're going to go through that. So, folks, don't get critical of Pam Bondi. She understands a lot more than people give her credit for. It's unfortunately Kash Patel and Dan Bongino who just don't understand the district model system, don't understand that this isn't a federal encompassing strategy. You can't just go national, because you could be locked into a state where prosecutions are going to fall, and what the people want, they'll never get. So you've got to tiptoe, and you've got to be very careful where you take these things, which districts you choose, and where you corner people in, and which of the crimes you catch them in certain areas of the states. Because if you catch them in the wrong one again, bye-bye, they got away with it. And then you see the people of America getting sued for malicious prosecution and all these other things, when really all you're doing is letting these corrupt individuals continue on. Take it for someone who watched that happen beautifully. Again, someone who studied it so hard and watched as it affected me in my own life as a Canadian, thanks to the independent judiciary, the DOJ, FBI, and Homeland Security of the United States of America, working like never before. And I can tell you, many, many Boilermakers from Canada or USA had no faith in it. They thought these guys had gotten away with it, because they did for decades. And, you know, the initial investigation, people thought, oh, there it is, you know, justice is for sale. No, justice was not for sale. And after I went through it and I had the very blessed status in my life, just by God's grace or accident, maybe not accident, but it's funny, I did a whole course with a justice who ended up being assigned to that case. And I knew him personally as a Canadian. They even, when I messaged out to the court, they're like, yes, Mr. Bjorkman, and I actually posted those emails back and forth, giving me so much on the case, status of it, where it is, what we need to do, what's happening, what these citizen initiatives are going to entail, and explain everything to you. I had that great gift. Do you think in Canada, like whether the Americans know this or not, but Canadians, do you think I could ever reach out to a single justice in Canada? No, I get shunned, the middle finger. When we talk about Attorney General Pam Bondi, we have Governor General of Canada, and we do have an Attorney General too, and Lieutenant Governors of our regions, our provinces, and they're nothing like yours. These are completely opposite definitions. They don't match at all. If America's free, we're subjugated. That's the truth. Everything is a different definition, and most of them are 180 degrees the other way. So for Canadians, as you should all know, and if Americans don't know this, if I go reach out to a court justice, I get slapped by the clerk. Like, how dare you, if they'll even talk to you. I reached out to Lieutenant Governor of our provinces and got told, how dare you, literally in email, how dare you come to this office? Like, I'm a piece of shit. I can go to the United States as a foreigner in these things. All I have is my Boilermaker passport, my registration number, and all of that in the International Brotherhood. and they were so kind, run through everything, and I had a really good understanding of what was going on and what was to be asked and how it works, because I'd studied that stuff, and they even knew that because one of them, well, the head justice had given me a course, as funny as that is, just 2 years prior, and he knew exactly who it was, and he thought, oh wow, this is great, I teach you all this stuff, and here you are in this case, and it's you. But those Americans were so kind, just with the registration on, I'm not even American, and they were so kind, so treat you with equality that I could never hope to experience ever, ever in Canada. So folks, Americans, Canadians, I make this video. It's very educational. If FBI doesn't get it, I hope they do. You're part of the investigative overlap with executive. You are part of the judiciary, but you're also in the executive because you do the execution of investigations and sometimes hauling people in. It's executive power bestowed upon you. So understand all of everything we have in Canada. We do not have three branches of government. On paper we do, but in the Constitution it's clear with our overwhelming crown appointments that all go back to the Prime Minister. Can you imagine the FBI being run by the President? Can you imagine Homeland Security being ultimately at the beck and call, sworn to the President, appointed by President? Think about that. Every single position of the judiciary, all justices, all levels, all districts, all the way down to the municipal. Can you imagine that? All the prosecutors in all 50 states. Can you imagine at your 50 state level, all your governors, lieutenant governors, attorney general, all appointed by the president? Can you imagine? Sworn and appointed by the president, meaning sworn to, that they will do whatever the president tells them. Does that sound like a democracy? Or does that sound like a China or a Russia? Well, I can tell you, even Russia isn't even as bad, even though they're very public and they are very showcasing of what is fused and what isn't. And Americans hate that. But imagine for a moment you went through the Canadian Constitution that is much, much larger than the American Constitution. It's written very complicated with multiple attached documents to really trip everybody up. Lawyers can't even get it right. And why? They don't want to. Our academia can't even get it right. And they don't want to. The only ones who get it right are the ones who actually left Canada, trained in Canada, and went to the United States. Then all of a sudden, they certainly get it all right. But you will find many, many Canadians have no idea or real clear understanding of their own constitutional laws. Our Constitution is very, very enriching of an elite class of people where they give divinity. We have equity of the person, assigned equity of the person, not a blanket equality of the person like the United States of America. That does not exist. We are polar opposites, 180 degrees. What America is, Canada isn't entirely. Now, it's possible at certain levels to do that. It can be enacted constitutionally, and it looks like it's available, but yet none of those divine elite want to lose their divinity. Think about that. All the elected and the massive appointments, our Canadian appointments sworn to Prime Minister, are vast and huge. Our entire Senate, so it's not part of the legislative. It's in fact, it's the legislative that's appointed and sworn to the Prime Minister, which means executive. Our entire Senate is fused with the executive. Can you imagine, Americans? Imagine your senators were all sworn to the president, appointed by president, and fused with president. How would that change all your laws? Whatever the president wants, would that mean Congress could work? Because you know every bill, even if it's made by Congress, it's got to go to Senate and be voted through. So you know how Canadian laws go. They're the laws of the Prime Minister. Can you imagine in America? They're the laws of whoever you've elected president. That's how it works in Canada. That's how our judiciary works. All appointed and sworn effectually by the Prime Minister. And you can look at it. Imagine all 50 states, judicial systems of the states themselves were appointed and sworn by President. And that's done in Canada entirely, all provinces, all territories, all by Prime Minister through Governor General. There's no definition of Prime Minister in the Constitutional Acts of Canada. President's found in the United States Constitution. In fact, most countries' top executive is defined. Not in Canada, and certainly not in the UK. Americans think these people are your friends. They hate your guts. They are entitled. They believe they're divine. And they hate America more than anything. And it's important for Americans to understand that, because they will never be your friends. This goes for much of the European Union, who's almost all entirely civil law socialist. If you haven't figured out what Republic France is, you really should, because it's not good. Anyways, that's my video. Epstein is not done. I think tomorrow morning, mark my words, I'm fairly certain that Dan Bongino's going to have a whole new narrative. He's going to be okay. I think tomorrow it's going to be business as usual. He's going to say, listen, I was wrong. I've learned some things. There's a path forward here. I'm not at liberty to disclose. And what I told you about that DOJ is the truth. And there are paths of success at the state level, not the federal. Homeland can't help with this. FBI can't do this alone. They need the DOJ, and they need the district models, and need specific district models. And if you tip everybody off and you go public, people with tremendous money and sick systems are just going to pack up where they are and be like, experts, where do I go? Well, just move over there. Okay, cool. I'm in the clear. Haha, suckers. That's the unfortunate truth. Stay tuned for my professional YouTube presentation where I hammer it home for New York. I give New York narrative and a fresh amendment that all Republicans, because of horse blinders, because they're not subjects, takes a subject to see these things when there's some things have been presented in the last amendment in New York that put all Republicans' hairs in the back of their neck stand up. No, no, no. But there's a key piece in there that can change everything. Can change everything. And you know what? Republicans wouldn't see it because they were so up in arms about certain things placed in that amendment. But there's one key piece in that amendment that changes everything. And that district model I was just talking about, those 12 district models, there's a change there. And New York State did it itself, whether they know it or not. I'm not sure why it was put in. Maybe somebody with a moral compass put it in, and it gives Americans a tremendous, tremendous path forward. And I'm going to teach that just in a 3-minute video, and I'm almost done. So this is my video, everybody. Share, 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 get it out there, and we will see tomorrow. I am of the opinion Dan Bongino is going to stay put. He's not a sellout. You all should know this is true. He's just going to be put into a loop. They're going to say, hey, Dan, this is something you need to know. We can't just make this a federal blanket because we're going to F it up and a lot of people are going to get away. So wait and see. You'll see tomorrow. It's not corruption. It's not Dan getting bought off. It's Dan getting put into the loop, understanding the American system. That is very complicated. It is slower, but I promise you, Americans, it's better to have an independent system that runs slow at your beck and call than being like a place like Canada where it only serves one class of people. And I guarantee you, me and mostly 90% of Canadians aren't there. Zero, zip, zilch. These people cannot be prosecuted, will never be prosecuted, and they will lie, cheat, and steal as long as they want to, as long as they're in an appointment or we've elected them. And it doesn't matter who you get. They all get corrupted way worse than any American system could ever deliver. Because at least when you do get that corruption, you can reset yourself. That's not possible in Canada. Canada just continually corrupts and grows the problem. That's my video. Share, share, share. Do the right thing. Get it out there. It's going to be, I guess it'll survive a month, this video, and it'll be taken down. But stay tuned for my 3-minute professional presentation for the state of New York. A lost public bet I put out there for Donald J. Trump that, you know, if the Oilers lost against his Panthers, then I would deliver this, and I'm going to. I would have anyway, but it would have been nice if we would have seen something on the 51st state. I'll never know. I'll never know. But this is going to be great. It's great for Americans, and it's great for the world, because if we can break these chains in America, maybe those Americans will break the very heavy, heavy chains I can't break for myself. My kids are all my friends and followers. I can't break the chains. They're just so massive and thick, it's not possible. But if I can break some of those American chains, make America greater, maybe those Americans will come along and break our chains. God bless everybody. All we can do is keep fighting. There's many ways to skin a cat, as I always say, and I look for those. And this is one. This is a powerful presentation coming for New York. And never lose heart. Americans, you should never lose heart. You have many checks and balances in your system. You have things that work independently for you, and even a lot that you can enact yourself. And we're going to go through that. You're going to see that in my professional video. God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's almost gone. Bye now.